Welcome back to First Light, where we explore how people transform their lives from the inside out. Today's guest is Gina Rogean, an advanced practice nurse and the founder of GT3 Health, a functional medicine practice. Gina helps high-performing adults get out of survival mode and step into a life of energy, clarity, and confidence. Her mission is simple: help people feel like themselves again and then feel even better. Let's get started. Today, I get to welcome Gina Rogean to First Light. Gina, for those who may not know you, let's introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey and transformation.
All right. So I'm a Florida girl, born and raised, live here in Jupiter with my husband of almost 21 years, with our awesome 9-year-old daughter, and yeah, love living in paradise here. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your career from nursing in cardiology to functional health.
Yeah, so I went back to school, 2013, became an RN, did cardiology for 8 years, worked in the cath lab area for some time, and then it's probably about 2018 when I was starting to feel real tired, and I'm like, something's not right. So I go to a regular doctor, and she runs labs and tells me everything looks good. You're probably depressed. Here's a prescription for an antidepressant, and I'm like, huh. I really feel depressed. So took the prescription home, just real confused. And I talked to some friends at the gym and they're like, you got to see somebody in functional medicine. And I'm like, what's that? So they're starting my journey, right? So reached out to a functional medicine provider, did my blood work, and she's like, well, your vitamin D, the range is 30 to 100. You're a 34. That's really low. So let's start giving you some vitamin D. Your DHEA is low. Let's start that as well. And what do you know? Within a couple months of these supplements, just a couple vitamins, right? I started feeling amazing. And I almost went on an antidepressant that changes your whole brain chemistry. So that really sparked my interest in getting to the root of what's going on with people. So went back to school and graduated in 22, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be a band-aid provider. I want to get to the root of what's going on. I want to break that sick care model and get people actually in a healthcare position. So that's what we do.
Well, let's talk about taking that kind of jump, that risk, right? To go back to school, to leave what you had done, what you're comfortable with, what you know, to go back, get another degree, and now starting your own business.
Yep. So we opened the practice just about a year and a half ago. And I was board certified by the ANCC, but before I opened the practice, I did go back and I got a board certification in anti-aging. And then I did advanced training with the BHRT Training Academy. So hormones, that totally my jam. And then the SSRP, so all the advanced peptide training. It really kind of put together this toolkit for longevity. Like, what does life look like 10 and 20 years from now? And that's really my focus, like getting people healthy today, but also like, what's the future going to be for you? So that's our
Yeah, I
focus.
know
Yeah.
for me, for my journey, health should have been the first thing I was worried about, but it was very much the last. Got caught up in career and got caught up in making money and chasing the nicer car, the bigger house, all that stuff. That my health was really the thing that went. And as we talked about, I was a heavy drinker, drank every day, didn't exercise, and so obviously, as I've shared over the last 2 years, lost over 50 pounds and just completed an Ironman, and now, really got into be proactive with my health. So talk about being proactive versus reactive and how you kind of help people to be proactive with their health.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely blood work is a big piece of it because we can see changes. So I'm a big proponent of doing labs quarterly. It's not for everybody, but I think if we're looking at prevention, that's something that should be done because you can see difference in changes and what are we eating, how are we exercising, how are we moving, what are we putting in our body, then what are we putting on our body, what are we exposed to, EMF, all these different things. But it's really the habits, right? It's like the habits that create that change, and then you put that in place, and nothing is perfect, right? So a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm just, I fall off, and then I'm off for a month." I'm like, if you can just be consistent, right, and maybe not be perfect, but the consistency that's going to build the habits, and then that's where the change comes.
That's what I talk about a lot is when I transformed my life to being more intentional about what I was consuming, what I was doing. When I started being consistent with showing up and then being disciplined to follow through, that's where I saw all this take off for me in such a big way. Talk about how you start treating patients. I mean, outside the blood work, what's your kind of full approach?
Yeah. So our initial visit is an hour. So I want to know everything from, what's the first thing you put in your mouth in the morning to the last thing you put in your mouth at night? What time are you eating dinner? What time are you going to bed? What are you doing before bed? What time are you getting up? Is it the same habit every day? Or is that, because that really affects your circadian rhythm, right? What are you putting on your skin? Right, because that's getting into the cells as well, not just what we're eating. Exercise, what does that look like? Not just, oh, I exercise. It's like, all right, what kind of exercise are you doing? How often are you doing it? Are you doing any zone two cardio? Like, what does that look like? Water intake, electrolytes, supplements. I want to know every single detail, even like past trauma, right? Because trauma in our body or unforgiveness, people won't find healing if if they haven't really dealt with that. So that's a big block as well.
Yeah,
So
and I
yeah.
want to talk to you about that a little bit because I know, how I got to know you was through church and through your husband, and I know that faith is such a big part of your all's lives and also a part of your business.
Yeah.
And so, talk a little bit about that faith journey and how you really are building that as a part of your practice as well.
Yeah. So, I feel like true wellness is the mind, body, and the spirit. They can't be separated. We're one created being. So, if we take away the spirit, we just have the mind and the body, we're really not going to be truly well, so to speak, or truly fit, right? So that's a big thing. And I just want to be used by God to bring healing and then, to also, tell people who Jesus is. So yeah, that's a big part of what we do.
And talk about what you do outside the practice with that, because I know you work with, couple, kind of married couples, helping them with their relationships.
Yeah, yeah. So my husband and I had a huge transformation probably about 4 years ago. I had gone to this inner healing ministry called Narrow Gate to Narrow Path, just totally unpacked all the lies that I believed, right? Replaced it with all the truth of who God says I am. Totally changed my life. I mean, literally, the clouds looked different to me the next day. It was amazing. And my husband saw the change in me, and then he started really getting into more of that walk, right? Walking with God, reading the word, spending that quiet time. And then we went to this ministry. It was JH Outback, which now the Florida, it's really JC Wilderness or JH Outback, either one. But we spent this weekend alone, no cell phones, just getting closer together, getting closer to God, worship, and all this. It was just such a transformation then for him, and it was such a big part of our life now that we were like, we have to be a part of this for other people. So we've become marriage coaches together for the last about year and a half now, and it's so awesome just to use your testimony to impact other people's lives, because that's how the change happens, is conversation, right? Telling stories.
What you said rings so true to me is that really, once I went down this path of transformation, like the sky did look different.
Yeah.
And, that was something that I never believed. I honestly came from a place where I didn't people believe that people can make a change. I just feel like people are who they are. They're never going to change. That's who they are. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, I go through this massive transformation. I'm a completely different person. I don't even recognize the person I am. So, really talk about how that can kind of come out of this health wellness journey, that transformation is real. It is true. You can really be a different person.
You can. So many people are like, oh, well, my parents were like this, or this runs in my family, or I've got bad genes, or whatever. And we're pointing the finger at all these things, but are they excuses? Probably, right? But it's like, all right, what are you eating today? How are you exercising today? What are you putting in your body now? Well, you can either turn those genes on or you can turn them off by how you are interacting with the environment, whether it's eating, nutrition, all that, exercise, everything. So I'm more like, let's control what we can control, right? Like the nutrition, the supplementation, getting people off of medications because, in my opinion, they're all just chemicals and terrible for us, right? Pharmakeia, it's sorcery. So I'm a huge fan of getting people off of medications like that SSRI, right? Experience that I had. I didn't take it, but the amount of clients that I have coming in that tell me they've been on these drugs for over 20 years and they don't even know why anymore. It's crazy. So I'm a big fan of plugging the holes, so to speak, is what I tell people, getting the right vitamins and minerals in them to get the neurotransmitters functioning properly, and then weaning them off of those drugs. And then it's like, not, the possibilities are endless, and it's just watching lives transform. It's so fulfilling for me. It's just amazing.
Let's talk about the entrepreneurial side now. I'm guessing that the entrepreneurial part wasn't a big part of who you were prior to starting your own business, but let's talk about the entrepreneurial journey and what it's like now to build this practice. And I know you're building it now with your husband, and I know as you guys are hiring people, faith is a part of making sure that you get the right fit. So talk about how you're building your business and where you see this business growing and going and that.
Yeah. So it's funny. When I went to college originally out of high school, I went for journalism. Wanted to write for a magazine, and I did that for a few years. And then my parents bought a restaurant, so I actually ran it with my dad. So a little bit of entrepreneurship started then. I had that ownership in the business, and we grew it for 4 years and then sold it. But really when I went back, I'm like, I wanted to create something so different and unique and really bring like that mind, body, spirit into it. And I'm like, this is something I want to create, right? That there's nothing like it. I want to also inspire other healthcare providers to do the same. So that's my vision is just yes in what we're doing, and then growing other providers to do the same. So yeah.
Talk more about what you're doing to build your business in the sense of hiring people, bringing people in, and because the business side of it, like the practice side of like taking care of patients, that's the easy part of it,
Yes.
for sure, right?
Yes.
That's our passion. Like as an attorney, like taking care of the clients, that's the easy part. But then building the systems, the processes, and hiring the people, and training, and all the other stuff that comes in the way, it's like that's that's the challenge. So talk about some of these early challenges that you've seen in the last year and a half of growing your business and how you've overcome some of those challenges and what's kind of next.
Yeah, so we started with just myself, right? I opened my business with a laptop and myself and a cell phone. And God just really blessed the business early on. Had so many amazing clients reaching out to me, and it grew and grew. We hired an assistant at the beginning of this year, and then I hired another nurse practitioner about 4.5 months ago, and just awesome. Of course, we want to have people that are aligned with our values, with our mindset. She's a great fit, so we're growing. We're now expanded to the state of Arizona. We're looking to right now almost ready for New Hampshire. So we're going into multiple states, and we want to just bring this same service to these other states to, expand our care and get people what they need because it's not out there yet.
So talk about how you approach all that. I mean, that's a big undertaking. Hiring these people, going into new states, all that kind of stuff. How you go about that?
Right. So but the systems, right? So man, the systems. It's all about the systems. Okay. So we are still working on it, right? So we actually introduced more of a continued care model a couple months back. And it's really to keep people accountable. So we're checking in with clients monthly. We're either sending them on a twice a year visit or a 4 time a year visit or a concierge. So it's more of accountability. It's keeping people on track. It's helping them with nutrition. We added like a nutrition tracking app to help people kind of navigate that as well. But really putting all these pieces together, it's required technology which we have had to get some help with, of course, because that's not in my wheelhouse. So we're gonna outsource that. So this team has been really integral in helping us kind of put the pieces together. Because, like you said, my passion is being with the people and taking care of the clients, and then growing other providers to do that. And now, like you mentioned, my husband coming alongside of me to really help us, expand and get the systems in place.
Yeah, one thing you hit on is just so important is the accountability. So, um, you know, I think that's one of the biggest changes for me in growing my business and in all areas was having someone who held me accountable to certain things. So, like going to the gym, right? We all had the best intentions to go to the gym and work out, but until you really create that habit of going to the gym, and even sometimes after you have the habit, it's hard to go. But if you have a coach and you're paying the trainer, and so my wife and I have a personal trainer, and one of the reasons I do that is because I paid money for this guy, right?
Right.
And so he's going to be there waiting on me, and I have to pay him whether I show up or not. And so the part of it for me was that accountability, but also the coaching that he taught me how to do things the right way, make sure I didn't injure myself and all that. But talk about how accountability in healthcare, because that's new to me. I hadn't heard about accountability in healthcare, right? I just go to my doctor, get my physical. All right, I don't have to come back for a year unless something goes wrong. And so there was no accountability on the health side, no one keeping me accountable. So talk about how you really are, how important that is to making sure that you treat the whole body.
Right. So it's the accountability is really brings in the prevention piece. So if we can have that touch point monthly, hey, my hormones feel a little bit off. I was doing great last month, but maybe this month I'm not so great. Okay, let's make an adjustment instead of, oh, I'm not going to see you for 4 months, or I don't even know when I'm going to see you. But scheduling it out. I tell people now I feel like a dental hygienist because you come and see me. I'm like, all right, let's book your next cleaning. Which is great. And people love it. They're excited because they're like, man, okay, I know I'm going to see you in March. Just saw you in December. I know I'm going to get my labs done mid-February. They got it all mapped out, so they know what's expected. And then we're again that much monthly touch point, really like being able to fine tune. So it's just like I feel like everybody does these wealth advisor, right? Somebody's managing your money, right? But who's managing your greatest asset? No, nobody, right? You are maybe once a year, and then you get a 5-minute visit. It's like, all right, oh, great. Oh, they don't listen. They dismiss you, and then it's see you next year. Great. Let me refill your prescriptions.
And do you think that healthcare is making that shift now? Or are you thinking that more of what you're offering everybody's going to show up? Or are we still decades behind on the healthcare front?
I think most people are on board with this and they're excited because it's different and they know they're getting results. And then there's a lot of people too that are kind of stuck in that, well, this is how my primary operates. Well, we don't operate like a primary, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working because you miss things. And that's really why we made this shift too. But I do see other kind of practices getting into this kind of model. We kind of went somewhere in between. That's kind of where we landed, but we want the best possible outcomes, and it's a more of a results driven model as opposed to like a reactive model.
One thing that impressed me getting to know you and your husband is for a lot of times, like when I look at businesses, I want to know that the person I'm doing business with, or the person I'm treating with, or the person representing me, or whatever it is, walks the walk. I see how hard you guys work in the gym, out of the gym, and so just knowing that you embody all the things that you're saying, I know that health and wellness is important to you, and so it's one of those things where you go to a doctor and they're like, hey man, are you really the one to be giving advice to me?
Exactly.
And so, talk about that journey for you about making sure that you're truly embodying what you're preaching.
Yeah, so I started working out. I don't wanna say later. I was not an athlete as a kid. I was a dancer, singer, didn't really care for sports, but when I graduated high school, I bought myself a personal training package. I'm like, "I should probably go to the gym," you know? And I started working out, and that's where I met Travis. I was almost turning 21, and I was at the gym twice a day. And I really got my love of fitness then. You see the work, right? You work out in the gym, you see the transformation, you're able to do more outside of the gym, not just look good, right? That's a bonus. The aesthetics are a bonus. It's the muscle and what all that does for our bodies and our cells. That's the real the payoff, right? And then, I met Travis. We kind of started slacking off a little bit. I put on a good amount of weight, but then we lost and we were doing good. I actually competed in my early 20s in figure. Hardest thing I've ever done because the nutrition cannot be, I mean, it is like you're counting every single ounce of everything. So that was not fun. The gym part was fun. I could be in the gym for hours every day, and I was. Um, but that taught me a lot about my body. It's almost like everybody should do one once just to see. Uh, Not that I really recommend it, but it was challenging. But kinda like the Iron Man, right? You wanna do it to see what you can do, to see what your body can do, to see if you can do it, to really like, it's a whole mental challenge, which is amazing. Um, but got back into it, and then when I got into CrossFit for a while, and when I got pregnant in 2015, yeah, I had her Gabby in 16, I could not work out. I gained 80 pounds. I'm 5'2". I was 210 pounds when I delivered Gabby. I couldn't look at a piece of chicken. So I went from like very strict paleo, that was really popular then, paleo, CrossFit to carbs all day. Couldn't even go for a brisk walk because my blood pressure was so low. So huge. I mean, every time I go to the doctor, she's like, Gina, you're gaining a lot of weight. And then finally at like month 5, I think she stopped even saying anything because she's like, this is just a lost cause. Huge, right? So after I had her, it was like an out of body experience. I didn't want to be in pictures. I felt so uncomfortable. Nothing fit. My face was, I mean, it was just horrible. But I felt terrible. Not even the look, right? It was just how I felt because fat cells, I mean, literally, like adipose tissue is inflammatory. So it's just a big ball of inflammation, right? And then I was like, it probably took me about 14 months to lose all the weight, really kind of get back dialed in, get back to training. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get those abs back. That was my goal. I'm gonna get some abs back. And I did, and it was hard. It was so hard. But it's not impossible, and I think that's the biggest thing is like people just feel like they have so much to go, so they don't even want to take that first step. But it's not a sprint, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's got to be a lifestyle change in order to keep it.
Awesome. What's the practical advice you give people who are looking to make that start to get that place? I know for me, it started with a run. I was never a runner. I played sports growing up, and so I ran in conditioning for a sport, but I wasn't like a runner.
Yeah.
I never identified myself as a runner, and for me, it was just the easiest kind of. And the first step, I just had to put on a pair of shoes and go out the door. I didn't have to have any special knowledge or training or skills. I didn't have to get in a car and go anywhere. I didn't have to sign up for any memberships. I just had to put on a pair of shoes and go out the front door. And so, as I've shared, my first run was, 0.67 miles. I think I walked half of it. I think it took me 18 minutes to do it. Now, of course, I'm running marathons and now I identify as a runner. I can't go without running. So for someone who's looking to make that first step, whether it just be for better health and a better lifestyle, whether it's fitness, what's that first step?
Yeah, I mean, go for a walk. Just start walking, whether it's a half a mile a day, and then keep increasing it, and then keep challenging yourself. Or maybe it's I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk a day. Maybe you set a time, or maybe you set like a mileage thing. That whatever kind of works for you and like your wherever you live. Just like you said, go out the front door. Um, Nutrition too, right? So sodas, anything artificial, anything out of a box, a bag, a can, just whole foods, just fruits, vegetables, proteins, rice, potato, fine, right? The food industry has snuck so many chemicals into our food, genetically modified things that we don't even know. There's like 20 names of corn right now, I think, because they use it as a filler, and it's like terrible for you. It's all genetically modified. Same thing with sugar. It's like I don't know how many names we're up to of sugar right now, but they sneak it into everything to create that addiction. So they just want you to go back for more. I mean, and there was that thing they put out about like the fast food and how they put so much sugar into the buns. It's wild. But that's in all processed stuff, right? Even if it's sometimes like the organic stuff, you think you're doing so good because it's organic, it's fine. Not necessarily. So even now, it's just whole food nutrition. That's it.
I think that's probably the thing I focus on the most on my nutrition journey now. Nutrition for me is I've gone up and down on. I was just on a cruise last week for Thanksgiving, so I wasn't the best with eating. I definitely overindulged, had some desserts and stuff, but the thing I did focus on the most over the course was the sugar and looking at the box to see what was there added sugars, and just cutting out the things with added sugars. It was amazing. But if you look, I was just shocked when I started looking at labels and seeing how much added sugar in these products. And just eliminating the sugar for me was such a big deal. Um, what about for people who've kind of neglected their health for a long time and, never haven't seen a doctor in years and doesn't even know what doctor, what do you kind of tell them about where to start there?
Yeah, I mean, I say start with a comprehensive blood work panel. Get a baseline, see where you're at. Kind of evaluate each of these areas. How's your mind working? How's your body working? How's that spirit? And then you take that inventory, combine it with what the blood work looks like, and then you make a plan. So many people they're scared to go to the doctor. They had a bad experience. I mean, the stories that I hear on a daily basis would make you cringe. It's so horrible. I mean, from menopausal women getting offered birth control for their symptoms to, just men being totally neglected, the testosterone's low and oh, that's just how aging goes. That's you just suck it up. No, we don't have to suck it up. There's no reason. We need to like give our bodies what it needs to perform the best. And then we could be in our 70s, 80s, and 90s and still enjoying life and feeling good and running with our grandkids and picking them up and not being in chronic pain, you know?
I think that's one of the craziest thing that was, that I've always felt is like I just ignore the props. Like if I ignore it, it'll go away, right? If I just don't pay attention to it, it won't be a problem anymore. And so, we're always kind of scared to go tackle the hard thing in life, right? We don't want to tackle the hardest thing. Let's put that off. So talk about, really taking the hard, tackle the hard thing first. Let's go tackle the hard thing first and do the hard thing.
Yep, yep. I'm always like, let's do the stepped approach. Let's lay the foundation, whatever that like whatever the big thing is. Maybe it is hormones, maybe it is crazy high insulin, maybe it's your gut, maybe it's coming from the gut. Whatever that is, let's attack that biggest problem first and then you chip away at the rest and then just continue to fine tune because I think too if you put too much on yourself at one time, it's overwhelming. It's like if you've never worked out and you're eating fast food 5 days a week and I tell you to work out 5 days a week and only has fast food once a month if you need it to treat for a treat or something like that to super clean eating, you're going to be like, no, it's not sustainable for somebody like that. So if you're like, all right, maybe go for a walk 3 days a week and let's cut out soda. Let's start there. And then we layer on the next thing. And then we layer on the next thing. And then the next, say you give up soda for 6 weeks and then you go to have it, you're going to feel terrible. It's like alcohol. I tell people if you cannot cut out alcohol for 6 weeks, there's probably a bigger problem going on, right? First of all, we'll talk about that in another episode, maybe. But alcohol, not one drop is good for us, not one. So, but I challenge people. I'm like, give yourself 6 weeks. Don't do it because when you on that seventh week when you have it, you are not going to feel good the next day. I can guarantee it. And the same thing with like the sugars or the processed foods. Like you clean out your engine and then you give it crud, it's not going to run right and you're not going to feel good. So it's just like it's just the same thing. I mean, we got these fancy cars in the garage. We're not going to put in, regular gas when it needs premium. But for our bodies, we're like, yeah,
Why not?
doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm resilient. I'm going to live forever. Right? That's what people think.
It's crazy to say the alcohol because, I'm now, it's crazy to think about it and say it, but 31 or so months, over 2.5 years now. And now actually the thought of having a drink, just like the smell, the look, like anything, just like actually makes me sick now.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be at a point in life where I'd say that because, early on, it was obviously a struggle to give it up. I mean, as I've shared, I just quit cold turkey. I woke up one morning and I said, those were the last drinks I'll ever have, and haven't have a drink again, which has, been great. But I always thought I would struggle with it. I'd always thought, what, I'm going to struggle to be around. I'll struggle to be in the rooms with people doing it. I'll struggle, I won't be able to, it's going to be a struggle. And what's crazy is it's not, and now because of the healthy lifestyle lead, kind of like you said, it's the thought of it just makes me sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's incredible. Um, let's talk about how you kind of manage it all, being a business owner, growing a business, taking care of yourself, which is so important. And now I know I see you working out and how well you take care of yourself, being a mother, being a wife, it's a lot. So how do you go about managing your time and managing your day so that you can show up as the best version of yourself for your husband, for your daughter, for your business, and for God?
So my husband and I, we meet once a week to kind of plan out our week. And that planning is probably where the fruit is, right? It's just setting us up for success. And then some weeks don't go perfect, like this week. Maybe I'm not having a great workout week, but doing dumbbells in the garage, going for a weighted walk, vested walks rather. Went for a run this morning at the park, listened to a podcast, and just penciling it in and blocking off the time. Because for me, it's like I start my day off with an hour just hanging out with Jesus. That sets the tone for my day. If that's messed up, my day is probably not going to go too well, and I'll know why. But that's my foundation. And then usually I'll work out in the morning. I'll do drop off. My husband does pick up. and then we kind of, some things, they get pushed off, like date nights. They've been a little far and few between, but that is something we usually like to do, like a at least once a month date night, just my husband and I. And we'll do a family date night, the three of us, where our daughter will pick a kind of a fancier restaurant. We'll all get dressed up. It's super, super fun. Yeah, and then really the business. I mean, our office hours are 9 to 4:30, but when you're the owner of the practice, you're always on, right? You're always on. Even if I'm reading an email at 7 a.m., I'm going to respond. That's just how I am, um, even on the weekends. So, but yeah, I mean, I think balance is probably a myth, you know.
Well, but what you said is what's so true is carving out that time. For me, it's that early morning. Uh, you know, now that the Ironman train's done, I slept into 5 a.m. today, so I was at like 4:15, 4:30. I got to sleep a little later, so it's 5 a.m. for me. But getting up and having that hour in the morning to pray, to meditate, to journal, to read, just kind of before my day takes away, really has been incredible for me. And what I hope for everybody to take away from all this is like, hey, develop that strong morning routine that really leads to everything else in life. So what's the message you want people to walk away from this conversation today with? If there's one thing they took from this today, what is that?
Goodness. I love what I do, right? It's not who I am. Who I am is a follower of Jesus, and that is one of the biggest gifts I've ever received. And that's always my point. Something I'll ask my clients is, "Hey, can I pray for you?" No one's ever said no, which is awesome. But it's always like, just planting that seed, right? And having somebody else water it and watching it grow, because that's life right there for me. That's the source of peace. That's the source of everything. And even His word says He wants us to be in health and to prosper. And I want God to use me as that tool to help people with their health, to help people prosper, in any way that I can. So whether it's just people coming to see me for their health, and maybe we'll pray, maybe we won't, but that's the foundation, right? It's just we were fearfully and wonderfully made, and I want to manage that as best as I can.
Yeah, I love what you shared because it's been huge for me. And what I like to try to remind people a lot too is that we're all in different places in this journey, right? I know so many people that are so far ahead of me in the spiritual journey. I feel like I'm playing catch up and trying to get there, and that's great. I surround myself with people like Travis, who I go to the gym and he's far ahead of me in physical fitness as well. It was like, hey, we're gonna do 10 rounds of 10 push-ups, and we're gonna face each other and do this. I'm like, dude,
And that's the warm up.
right, that's the warm up. And oh, by the way, we're gonna do pull-ups too. Like, what's going on here? But that's okay, right? Surround yourself with those people because those are the people that are going to push you to be better and better. And we're all starting at different points with whether it's health and wellness or whether it's physical fitness, whether it's spiritual journey, whether it's the entrepreneurial journey. We're all in different places. We're all starting at different points, and that's fine. Um, Lastly, for people who want to connect with you, they want to come and treat with you, they want to learn more about you. How's the best way to kind of connect with you?
Yeah, well, we have a website. It's GT3 Health. So the name of the company too, I didn't even mention it, but I love how we're God's temple, right? So GT is God's temple, and then three for the three pillars of health: the mind, body, and spirit. So again, something I just want people to connect, because that's the true physical fitness, right? Is all three. But yeah, gt3health.com. They can send us a message there. We're on Instagram, got a lot of funny reels on there. You want to check them out. But yeah, that's the best way to connect with us, really. And we've got a lot of other good information on the website as well. Hormones are a huge focus of ours. Bioidentical hormone therapy. We treat men and women over 16. Um, Lots of peptide therapy, very well versed in peptides, and just overall, health optimization is what I like to say. So
Well, I love it. And Gina, thank you for joining me today and sharing your journey and teach us a little bit about health.
thank you so much. It's been a blast. Hoping to do it again.
Thank you. Gina, thank you for sharing your insight and your passion for helping people take ownership of their health. For everyone listening, if something in this conversation resonated, if you're ready to feel stronger, clearer, and even more energized, make sure to check out GT3 Health and the work Gina is doing. As always, thank you for joining me on First Light. Keep shining your light.